Thanks for joining us. I'm Megan Roberts. Indigenous women in the North are vulnerable when it comes to forced sterilization because they often travel outside their community for treatment. That's according to an advocate for reproductive justice. She hopes a new national registry will reveal the extent of forced and coerced sterilization of Indigenous women across Canada. As the CBC's Nadir Hashmi reports, it's among the first of its kind.
It's challenging to know the full extent of the issue right now. Number one, there hasn't really been like national report or study done on it.
Forced or coerced sterilization refers to clipping or removal of the fallopian tubes, ovaries of a person. The primary purpose is surgically preventing conception permanently without informed consent. A 2021 Senate report said historically, Inuit, First Nations and Métis people were disproportionately targeted and sterilized. QNAC says no official numbers or records exist for similar cases. That's why the organization launched a national registry in November 2024. They hope survivors will come forward. Stephen Cooper is an Edmonton-based lawyer specializing in Indigenous law. He says forced sterilization often goes unreported or survivors may not realize it happened to them.
While the National Registry might improve our knowledge, I'm not terribly confident that's going to make a lot of difference. Part of the problem with forced sterilizations is they're terribly personal. They don't have the sort of community network that, for example, residential school survivors would have.
In the Northwest Territories, Cooper says the most recent reported case involved a Tuktoyaktuk woman he represented 2 years ago. However, he says there could be more.
We know there are more. I mean, I've been contacted by 3 or 4 other individuals who are reluctant to proceed.
Cooper says survivors speaking out will help reveal the extent of the problem.
When they hear that somebody has come forward, that there are other people like them, they find strength, and strength in numbers.
QNAC also said as part of building the National Registry, Indigenous sterilization survivors can also apply for a healing fund. She said the fund can help pay for grief counseling, therapy, or reproductive technology. Nadir Hashmi, CBC News, Yellowknife.
Construction of the Kivedluk Long-Term Care Centre is officially complete. Officials held a ribbon-cutting ceremony today at the facility in Rankin Inlet, Nunavut. The long-term care facility has 24 beds for people that need daily support, like those with dementia. Residents have to be 55 years or older. Coral Harbour elder Susie Angutialuk hopes her 91-year-old husband will be one of the centre's new clients. He currently lives at Embassy West in Ottawa. Angutialuk says if he moves to Rankin Inlet, so will she, so she can visit him every day.
I would make the move to Rankin Inlet and try to get a house so I can get to see him every day. It's so hard not being together. I constantly think about and worry about how he is doing. It really starts to take a toll on me. It's really hard.
The centre is expected to start housing people this spring. Staying in Rankin Inlet, one elder says recent house fires across the territory remind her of her own loss. Adele Ongidlik lost everything she owned in a house fire in 2019. Ongidlik says those memories have come up again as she hears about the 36 families displaced by last week's fire in Iqaluit and the house fire in Rankin Inlet the same night.
Losing your home is a huge loss, especially when it's your home. My heart goes out to the many people in Iqaluit, and then the next morning I heard about another fire here in Rankin Inlet. It was so heartbreaking. My heart goes out to them.
Ongidlik says she was able to get another public house, which was furnished by the generosity of Nunavummiut. She says she's seen the same generosity after the recent fires. The city of Whitehorse has budgeted $300,000 for the annual risk of a landslide next to a key road. Robert Service Way is one of the main arteries in and out of downtown Whitehorse. It's been closed several times in recent years due to landslides on the nearby escarpment. Last night at Whitehorse City Council, officials shared some details about this year's plans to mitigate the slide risk and respond if there is one. Initiatives include installing gates that staff can use to block off the road when necessary. Those will cost $150,000. But they aren't the only things in the slide budget.
The $300,000 also includes the rest of our response to the spring risk of land slippage in that area. So it includes things such as monitoring and the blocks that we use for protecting the road through the spring.
Whiting says the city should expect to budget money for managing the slide risk every year unless a permanent solution to preventing the slides is found. There have been several recent wolf sightings in both Yellowknife and Fort Smith in populated areas. For more on what's happening and why, I'm joined by Abby Wilson. She's a carnivore biologist with the Government of the Northwest Territories. Thanks so much for being here, Abby.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start with these wolf sightings in Fort Smith and Yellowknife. What can you tell us?
Yeah, so far ECC has been receiving sightings and occurrences of a wolf that we're not sure if it's multiple wolves or one wolf at this point, but that's been all around Yellowknife Inn and the surrounding area. And officers are patrolling and trying to keep track of where the wolf is. In Fort Smith, there's been one wolf sighted multiple times. Snares have been set for this wolf, signage has been posted, and ECC is just encouraging the public to continue reporting sightings in both cases.
What would bring a wolf so far into town? Some of the sightings in Yellowknife in particular are not in the fringes, they're kind of in the center of town. Why would a wolf come in so far?
There's a couple reasons that wolves could come in this far into town, both on the peripheral and into town. The first being it's winter months, and that means a few things. The lakes are frozen, so access is increased for wolves. They can get to places that they might not have been able to before. We're in January. January to March is the breeding season for wolves, so there might be some increased movement there. From the photos that I've seen on social media, this looks like a young wolf. Young wolves tend to disperse in late fall and early winter. So it could be a young wolf that's just been kicked out of a pack and is looking to establish a new territory. When wolves are looking for a new territory, they're trying to find food, they're trying to find mates, and they're also trying to find a territory that's not already occupied by another pack. And so in Yellowknife in particular, we know we have active wolf dens north of the dump. You know, we've seen that pack last year at the Fred Henne campground. So we know wolves are around and in this area. And so this individual might just be exploring a new territory, might be a dispersing individual. Of course, if wildlife is coming, deeper into town centers, that could be because they're getting a food reward. So if there is unsecured garbage, if you're leaving pet food out, if just there's food in general that's accessible by wolves, that might be a reason that the wolf is staying closer to town instead of looking elsewhere for food.
I mean, you mentioned a whole range of reasons why this might be happening. It does still seem fairly unusual that a wolf is so far into town. Is this fairly unusual behavior for a wolf? Would they normally kind of want to be further away from humans?
Yes, I think in general, wolves they don't want to be around humans. It's not their preferred habitat. And in previous years, we've seen wolves kind of on the periphery of the town, not so much in the center of town. But as far as wolf sightings go, this is pretty much common. This is usually what we see this time of year, late fall and early winter. I looked up our previous occurrence records, and we average about 7 wolf occurrences per year over the last 10 years. So it's not unusual that people are seeing wolves. I'd say it's a little bit unusual that the wolf is so deep into the center of town. But again, if it's getting a food reward, then I'm not surprised.
Yeah, let's talk about the kind of behavior that people should exhibit if they see a wolf. So we know don't leave food out.
Yes.
But if you come face to face with a wolf, what should you do?
So if you're by yourself or if you have a pet with you, make sure that you keep your pet close to you on a leash. If a wolf is approaching you and showing aggressive behavior, you want to show that you're the more dominant individual. So you want to make yourself big. You want to act aggressively, put your hands in there, clap. You can also throw rocks at the wolves if you need to. You want to back away slowly. You don't want to turn and run. And then, that happens if the wolf is right in front of you and something's happening. But the key is to prevent those interactions. So the way to do that is, we never want to approach a wolf. We never want to approach any signs of a wolf if there's a rendezvous site or a den. We absolutely never want to feed wildlife, especially wolves. We want to give the wildlife the best opportunity to leave us alone if they have that chance.
And then I also wanted to touch upon briefly, just because the wolves have been coming so far into town, sometimes they've been spotted near schools. So is there anything in particular that parents should be telling their kids about what they should do if this happens, if they see something, just with these kind of in-town sightings?
Yeah, I'd say first, tell your parents that you saw a wolf. And where it was, have your parents call ECC right away. The key for us is that if those sightings can be reported right away, then we can respond faster and ensure public safety. It's difficult for us to respond if we get a call and then we saw the wolf 2 days ago or last night even, because the wolves are highly mobile. They're moving, and as you've seen, from the sightings, it's moving all over the town. So let ECC know right away, report important details. School kids that are walking home from school should always, I would suggest being in a group. If you're going out on the playground, stay in a group. Just be vigilant, have a look around outside, pay attention to your surroundings. I mean, we live in a remote place, and that's why a lot of us like to live here. So we just need to remember to be vigilant in wild country.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good advice kind of year round. Thank you so much, Abby. This has been fascinating, and I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
And we have some numbers for you on the recent wolf sightings, all from the GNWT. There were 10 calls about the Yellowknife wolf and about 10 sightings reported for the community. In Fort Smith, there were 2 recent calls about a wolf. There were not any sightings, but people did report that they saw signs of the animal. And again, the NWT Department of Environment and Climate Change asks that you call it immediately if you see a wolf.
The Kanwipita National Inuit Health Survey team is going to every community in Nunavut, speaking to Inuit about their health and wellness. And every answer will help us as Inuit determine our own priorities for a healthier future. Together, we will answer the question, Kanwipita, how are we? Find out when we're coming to your community. Learn more at qnihs.ca.
Earth is our collective home that makes us all family. As family, we strive to love and protect each other. Diversity of species is our strength. We are all connected. We survive and thrive together. We celebrate many things this season and make many choices. Taking care of our family should be the easiest. We're in this together.
Being there means being here. Russian forces, they want it badly. It's just a fraction of the mess here in Port-au-Basque. To witness, to listen, to share. I'm so freaking worried about them. Adrian Arsenault reports on CBC News. Stream free.
We're often drawn to people who have something we want in ourselves.
But it doesn't mean living like you're running out of time. It means living in a place of hope.
Canada's premiers are meeting in Ottawa this week. They'll discuss Canada-U.S. relations with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. It's part of Canada's attempt to avoid tariffs threatened by incoming U.S. President Donald Trump. Premiers and business leaders warn that those tariffs would devastate Canada's economy and raise prices for American consumers. Yukon Premier Ranj Pillay says the meeting is even more important because of Trudeau's pending resignation.
I think it's incredibly important to put everybody in the room together. You're seeing a number of premiers speaking out and trying to fill that void right now that seems to be hurtful to us as a country. We need to have the Team Canada approach, and I think it's an incredibly important time right now because we could see an executive order signed right after the 20th that could have some real impacts on the Canadian economy.
The Council of the Federation will travel to the U.S. Capitol on a diplomatic mission in February. Premiers will discuss the economy, energy, critical minerals, border security, and immigration with American officials. The Liberal leadership race is narrowing and getting clearer. Two well-known names are bowing out, and a big outside contender was on an American late-night talk show to drop hints about joining in. The CBC's Ashley Burke has the latest from Ottawa.
A surprise late-night TV appearance to soft launch a high-profile campaign.
He's a Canadian economist, former governor of the Bank of Canada and Bank of England. Please welcome to the program Mark Carney. Sir!
The former central banker, who's rarely seen on Canadian TV, teasing his bid to become Liberal leader on the set of a popular American show with lots of Canadian fans.
Have you offered yourself as leader?
I just started thinking about it when you brought it up.
Carney's actually long thought about it, and sources say he'll officially announce he's joining the race to replace Justin Trudeau on Thursday, at a time when Canadians want change.
It's really difficult for a candidate to come in who is saddled with the policies that are on.
But let's say the candidate wasn't part of the government. Let's say the candidate did have a lot of economic experience. Let's say the candidate did deal with crises. Let's say the candidate had a plan to deal with the challenges in the here and now.
Carney's teasing he's running while Canada's industry minister is being frank. He's out.
It was probably one of the most difficult decisions in my life, but I think it's the right one at the right time.
Former BC Premier Christy Clark also making the decision not to run. She's blaming her lack of time to campaign and her French skills that need improvement.
I came out and I supported Jean Charest.
But this interview on CBC's The House, showing her lack of memory about joining the Conservative Party, could have done her in.
You voted in the race, did you not?
No, I didn't. And I never got a membership, and I never got a ballot. What I did, though,
I will say, Christy Clark, we reached out to the Conservative Party, who told us, in fact, that your membership was cancelled.
That leaves a lot of space for the youngest contender, House Leader Karina Gould, who sources say will announce her bid this week.
I think it is extremely important that we have a younger voice in the race.
Those who want to lead the Liberal Party have to declare their intentions by next week. Sources say former Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland is expected to launch her campaign by Monday. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
A CBC News investigation has been looking into one of this country's most notorious immigration recruiters. She's a Toronto businesswoman who has been charging illegal fees to foreign workers in exchange for finding them jobs. This probe is part of a new CBC News series called Welcome to Canada. It's about immigration issues told through the eyes of people who have experienced them. The CBC's Valerie Roulette reports.
A joyful dance from foreign workers, showing off their work permits, golden tickets to a new life in Canada. Stories like these are all over this recruitment agency's Facebook page. It's called Link for Staff. It's owned by Janet Mosquito. She claims to have helped hundreds of newcomers for a fee. But behind the happy pictures, CBC found a trail of broken dreams.
Everything's a lie.
John Kizo wishes he'd never met her. In March 2023, the international student says he paid the recruiter nearly $3,000 to help him find a job and work permit. He dropped out of college, and Mosquito found him a job, but she never came through with the work permit. Kizo's now living in this homeless shelter, broke and unable to work legally.
I cannot pay the debt. I can't find a job. I can't even support my son.
A CBC investigation has found that Mosquito and her companies have been caught 35 times by the Ministry of Labour charging foreign workers illegal recruitment fees for jobs. That makes her Ontario's top offender. While she was ordered to repay the fees, sometimes with a small penalty, this lawyer says that's not enough to discourage unscrupulous recruiters.
It's like a parking ticket, you know. You park, you get a violation, you pay. That's it. You can do it again.
Under provincial law, repeat offenders can be charged and face jail time. CBC asked the ministry why they haven't pursued Mosquito. They did not answer, but said they will soon introduce tougher measures, including naming and shaming dishonest immigration representatives.
Thank you for calling Link 4 staff.
Meanwhile, Mosquito's company is still open for business. CBC tried contacting her multiple times for comment, but...
Hello, I'm calling from CBC News. They hung up.
Valérie Ouellet, CBC News, Toronto.
The Nunavut Harvester Support Program is expanding. The goal is to make hunting practices more sustainable. The Kikitani Inuit Association recently added new funded items to the Nunavut Harvester Support Program. QIA's president says some of the new eligible items include snowmobile and ATV parts and insurance policies. The program covers 75% of the cost of an item and up to $1,000 every year for each person.
We have a $790,000 budget that we deliver for the year. And we have $325,000 still. So I think it's a good program that has helped a lot. And we want to encourage more people to apply for these programs that we have. Every dollar helps us as hunters.
Hunters from across Nunavut are eligible for the program. An Indigenous artist from northern Manitoba was given full creative control over a new set of murals in Winnipeg's North End neighborhood. The finished piece aims to bring awareness to one of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's calls to action. The CBC's Zubina Ahmed has more.
These murals on the Nadinaway building depict pain and hope. On one side, a young person with their hands open to the stormy grey sky and the Winnipeg skyline in the background. The other has the sun shining over a forest with teepees and a mother and child holding hands. The artist behind it is Jedrick Thorasi. Thorasi belongs to the remote northern community of Tadule Lake. He says he had a difficult childhood and his struggles inspired him to do this work.
I grew up in foster care. Barely know any of my family. I barely know my own language. So yeah, it's been pretty tough. I try to show all that in my art.
These murals are part of Nadinaway's collaboration with Graffiti Art Programming's Art as Action project. Shanley Scott, executive director of Nadinaway, says Thorasi's story in his artwork is a story he's lived.
There's a message about the pain and the hurt that young people and Indigenous people in general have faced, but there's a message of hope. Hope based on a reclaiming of identity, of who we are and what's important.
The goal for the murals is to bring awareness to number 66 of the Truth and Reconciliations Commission calls to action. Steve Wilson, executive director at Graffiti Art Programming, says Thorasi's work is heartening.
He also does really in-depth social commentary on some of the big issues that we're experiencing across Canada right now. So residential schools, unmarked graves.
Thorasi says he has a solo exhibition coming up with more of his art, and this mural has given him a platform to grow further and dream big. Zubina Ahmed, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Biking and hiking are popular hobbies in the north, but one Whitehorse family has turned it into a lifestyle. Ed Gillis and Jocelyn Land Murphy, along with their two sons, have ventured across 27 countries by cycling and hiking. That includes a 6,000-kilometer trek across New Zealand, Australia, and French Polynesia, and a separate tour across Europe. Later this month, the family of 4 will be making a presentation in Whitehorse with advice for bike touring with kids.
They call it world schooling, and I mean, I'm a teacher. I believe in public education, but like I love going out there to see things, and I think that the other thing is probably the benefits of it too. Like it's hard. I mean, you have to figure it out. You have to kind of prioritize it. It has to be how you structure your life is around saving money to be able to go and to splurge on some of these things, I think, a little bit.
One of Gillis's biggest tips to parents looking to do a bike tour is to give your kids a say in making the plans. Gillis says allowing their individual interests to be fulfilled has been great for his family. After a 1-year absence, Nunavut is returning to Canada's top women's curling competition. With even more time to reflect and train, the team says it's serious about bringing home a win. TJ Deere reports.
Perfect! This site was absent last year. Team Nunavut throwing stones at the Scotties Tournament of Hearts. All the way, girls! Due to a lack of player availability and the closure of Iqaluit's curling rink, Nunavut decided not to participate in last year's tournament. But now, they're back. Lee Gustafsson is one of the main players on this year's team. She was the alternate in 2023. Gustafsson says the team has a lot of support.
There's just so much passion in it. Everyone that's involved in the sport here truly loves the sport, wants to see the sport succeed, and our club here is run entirely off of volunteers, and it really, really shows with the heart that people put into it.
Peter Van Streen is the secretary-treasurer of the Nunavut Curling Association and will be on Team Nunavut for this year's Brier. That's the men's tournament. He's optimistic about the women's team's chances.
I do think the team is competitive and will scare some of the teams that are there, some of the good teams there, and I could definitely see a win or two.
Even Curling Canada is excited that Nunavut is back. Al Cameron is the National Association's Director of Communication and Media Relations. He says it's a reminder that the Scotties is a true national championship.
It's great that all of our 14 member associations will be represented in Thunder Bay, and Nunavut is a valued member of that member association group in Canada.
Julia Weigel will be the skip of Team Nunavut. She's the only import player on the team. This year's tournament will take place in Thunder Bay, Ontario from February 14th to the 23rd. TJ Deere, CBC News, Iqaluit.
And that is Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, go to cbc.ca/north. Thank you for watching. I'm Megan Roberts. Have a good night.
When we work to end inequity, we help start something better. Support even the odds.
I've been waiting 8 years for this moment. It feels like magical. I'm still like pinching myself.
Bakers, now you are finally here.